And I think let's just start with the music space. And I'll start with you, Hunter, because we were talking about you and when you started music, what kind of experience it was, to you moving to where you are right now, and what kind of challenges you faced and where you think we are not as, yeah, as the entire industry.
So, thank you so much. So for me, I'm going to speak completely from my personal experience. I was born in Tanzania, Dar es Salaam. I moved to London, raised in London, and then I moved back to Tanzania. When I was in London, I did dance, fashion, and my dream was to become a musician. So even I was from the old world, where being gay, you had to be underneath, underground. And even when I was in my 20s making music, there never seemed a market for LGBTQA music. There wasn't a space for it. It was always underground. And developing, I always felt that I was different and therefore completely bespoke, that no one would understand my message. And slowly, when Madonna popularized voguing and all of a sudden we were all dancing Vogue to Madonna, suddenly I was cool and trendy. And the amount of interest I got in London then, because I looked a certain way, I was like, looked into that androgynous kind of, we call it non-binary now, but I became popular in London. And then it was okay to be gay and have a voice, you know? Unfortunately, then my father passed away and I moved to Dar es Salaam. And in Dar es Salaam, it is illegal to be gay, to be homosexual. So I immediately went back into the closet. And for 9 years, I suppressed my art. And I chose to move to Cape Town to explore what it is to be queer and what it is to be authentic, and now develop my artistry as a musician and a performance artist. So what I found, I grew up in a world where it was illegal, like you can't be gay, to now we're celebrated. We're celebrated and we can have these panel discussions, we can have these conversations about harmonizing, including, showing who we are on mainstream. And what is mainstream? Popularity, popularization, in terms of people aren't afraid of us anymore because they get to know who we are. And therefore, as every queer artist, we have a unique voice. So where we're not right now is when I worked with Kerry and I released my first record. I was in Cape Town. My first record was So Gay. It was called So Gay. And it was an activism number for myself to basically proclaim to my family, who are Muslim, that, you know what, I'm gay, hey, I'm gay. And I'm going to use that and develop that for myself in order to be stronger and promote and be an activist. We decided that no one would play that record in Cape Town, let alone South Africa. Let's release it in the UK. We released it in the UK, and it got to number 24 in the Music Week charts in the UK. But no one would play it in South Africa. We approached many radio stations. No, it's way too gay. It's too gay. I still feel I've released 3 or 4 records now and still focused on in London releasing. But I choose to live in beautiful Mother City. I love Cape Town. So now with the next album, it's Incredible, which I'm releasing in October, which is a very, very queer album specifically. I think I'm now getting invited to be on a panel. I'm getting invited to showcase here because I think now we're become mainstream. Thanks to Beyonce also, living the Renaissance.
Are we really mainstream?
Well, not as much, you know, but that's where we're not in terms of we're getting there. Yeah. There has been a difference, there is a change, but I don't think it's fully inclusive because there's still a stigma, there's still a type, there's still a, you're this, you know? So,
and not that.
And not that.
And that's not acceptable. And I think flying here yesterday, we were speaking with Mixed Blouse about just that challenge of like mainstream. And I know you, one of the biggest questions I asked you was, you perform a lot, but you perform a lot outside of the country, right? Which is similar to your experience. Why is that? And how has your experience been as well?
I mean, I think I have to be honest in the sense that just looking at my contemporaries, I'm a rap artist, which is unusual for a gay person. So I think it makes things even more weird for people to like, you rap, you're gay. Like for a lot of people, it just doesn't make any sense. But to be quite honest, I've been lucky with a few promoters in South Africa who have consistently booked me. But you're right, I find it generally easier for me to find work in Europe than it is to find work in South Africa. You know, you were talking about radio not wanting to play the music. I always feel like they look at your image and they just decide that your music is alternative, even when it's not. I don't think my music is alternative at all. My music is a lot of mainstream sounds. So that excuse that the music is too alternative, I've always kind of seen it as, oh no, they just don't want to play my music because I'm gay, you know. But yeah, like I told you yesterday, I've found it so much. Yeah, I found it so much easier to even speak to people that I've never met before in Europe and be like, hey, I know about this platform. I'd like to come over and play, and they've always let me come play. I just came back from a tour in Europe now, but yeah, I do think things are changing though. But maybe that's something we can touch on as we continue.
Kerry, please pick up on that, because you've been in the space and in the business of promoting music, working with queer artists. I love Tamara Gay. Where do you think is the problem? Because there is an issue around like access. There is an issue around, you know, whether it's record labels who don't sign our artists, whether it's the radio that doesn't play our music, whether it's a music video channel that thinks that we're a bit too much. There's always a bit too much. Why?
So if you look at the tiers of of trying to break in and the challenges, whether you're queer or straight, the biggest, actually let's backtrack to when there were record labels controlling the space. Your gateway to radio, your gateway to the market was through a record company. So if the record company wouldn't sign you, the possibility of ever getting access to radio and airplay, and then video obviously killed the radio star, which gave access to the visual performance. With the advent of digital, the shift has now become the onus of the artist to get themselves out and not being dependent on the record company. In saying that, it now comes personal. So in my experience with artists that are gay, some of the challenges are they haven't told their family. So the visual appearance on what they're putting out is inauthentic. And one of the biggest challenges for artists to be present, to be in their present authenticity for your audience to buy into you. Then your next layer is there could be religious comeback. So the fear of putting yourself out as a gay artist and the fear of being taken out by your personal religion. So the challenge...
That's the Muslim bit.
Yeah. So a good example where Hunter says things are good, things are great. When Hunter approached me, I was like, I'd met him a few times on various other jobs that I was working on, the PR for SA Men's Week, and image-wise and authenticity-wise, he just stuck out. And I said to the producer of the fashion show, please, that gentleman needs to always be sitting in the front row. I was terribly nervous when he phoned me and said, can we meet? I want to launch my music. Here's a man, he's not 22, he's gay. I don't know what the sound of his music's going to be. And he played the song, I'm gay, so gay. And I was like, I'm in. Because it just was real. And to tap into your audience wants to feel your authenticity. Getting it out there is a different story. Because we knew straight away there was going to be a problem with acceptance in South Africa, we approached a UK PR company, And even though there's a much bigger acceptance in the UK, they came up with quite a big global strategy, and it was to launch the song on Facebook to homophobic community, to right-wing, to rifle people, to absolute, the epitome of the homophobes. And that's where they put their campaign, and it went viral because each and every homophobic person sent it on to their friend. And the way they positioned the clip, it was wait for the drop. And the first 4 sentences, you thought it was going to be, how would you describe the genre?
Well, it was I created a blues track, so it was a very funky blues track, but the hook is just, it goes straight into gay, so gay, I'm gay, and it really blasts at you, and it's a little bit of a telling off to, the narrative is that I had an experience that, being a gay man, I have lots of female friends, and one of the female friends I had, her boyfriend did not like me because I was in her ear, and we shared different things that he couldn't understand. So we had a little bit of a disagreement once, and he was just like, you're gay, you're like this, you're like that. And the song is about, so what if I'm gay? That doesn't make me
You were like, oh,
less.
I'm gonna monetize this.
Well, I was like, it doesn't make me any less of a man.
Yeah.
There's just because I'm gay doesn't mean that you can push me around and I'm going to go away. I'm so gay. And also in the UK, when I was growing up in the in the early 90s, I was a dance teacher teaching in schools, and I would start teaching and they'd be like, "Oh God, you're so gay," as in derogatory, as in that's negative. People used to call you queer negatively. You're queer. So in my first record release, I wanted to own it. I'm like, yeah, I am so gay. And come mess with me because I'm going to show you I'm even gay. And that's what provoked, I would say, homophobic rhetoric online. And we got a lot of drama, and we got a lot of people wanting to harm me. Yes, and we had that.
Why do we have to do that also? Because so here's the thing, like I asked a lot of people, there was a question earlier that somebody asked about, writing music, what's the inspiration behind it? And ours is like activism kind of music, like You're So Gay for me was like a statement being made. How, like even then, like I always ask you guys, the creative process, how much of it goes into the thinking of what kind of music you're going to release? And do you have time to just have fun and to change the narrative? You speak about being a rap artist. Yeah.
Authenticity means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And I'm listening to your story and it sounds very authentic to you. But for me, I grew up in a township, hanging out on street corners with boys. That's my life experience, and that's something that comes through in my music. I'm very open about my sexuality and my gender, but I do my best to make music that I think anyone can relate to, because at the end of the day, I think we're all human beings. We all fall in love. We all get heartbroken. We all get mad. A lot of my music is about the things that I'm mad about. So without...
I've heard the heartbreak ones.
Yes, lots of heartbreak. So without shunning my identity as a queer person, I also make a lot of space and allow myself to be able to express other things and to just remind people that, you know what, my sexuality and gender are not the only things that define me. And I think that's become very important to me. And to be able to, I think one thing that I've become very passionate about is being someone who's able to break those glass ceilings for the next generation. So then queer artists shouldn't always have to be, speaking about I'm queer all the time. That's great, but we are full human beings. We need to be allowed the space to express that.
Talking about space, the platforms, and this is a question for all of you. Platforms and spaces, we see lots of festivals, productions, I also feel like there's very little of representation on those stages. You spoke about a personal experience of a festival where here's the main stage, and then because we're doing that tick box,
The pink tent.
yeah, yes, then they had a little pink stage.
No, I was very upset about that actually. So this festival books me, and then no one kind of told me that I wouldn't be on on the stage that everyone else is. So when I get there, it's like, oh, okay, we have a pink stage. So I'm like, what's this pink stage? So it turns out that all of the queer artists that were booked were playing on the stage, which was at the other end of the festival. And for me, that sounds like someone just ticking a box on some "we are inclusive," because inclusion at the end of the day is about fostering empathy and, you know, community. So when you're putting us all the way that side, basically what you're saying is that we're not good enough to play for everyone. Like, it was quite a weird one for me, and I've seen it happen a few times with different festivals, and my approach has really been to, if you're booking me for the pink stage, I'm not coming to play.
And they make you perform at 1 p.m.
They make you perform at 1
at
p.m.
1 p.m. Because, you know, we don't deserve like prime spots.
Yeah, I'm not taking that gig, sorry.
You want to add into that? Because, I mean, I think we have to get into the politics of transformation as a whole. So we come to Fame Week and we talk about these things, and we are going into the transformation space. And so a lot of people are ticking by boxes of like the environment, the social aspect of it, right? But in real terms, what does it look like? What does it translate to? You know, these barriers and of entry and access. Why? And how do we change that?
Speaking within the parameters of South Africa and South African radio and airplay, I think if your song breaks on radio here, you have a good chance, whether you're queer or straight, and nobody sees who you are visually, if it's a massive hit. And it could be a massive hit if we go back to the talk before, a breaking hit from a track being synced on an advert perhaps, or in a series and it becomes a theme song of a series.
TikTok challenges.
Yeah, that's
Because
on,
I mean, the
on
new
social
age,
media,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, social media's
So-
taken us there.
So if your song has broken through without the getting to radio on your own, then with getting to radio without a record company, the platform for music festivals somehow opens up to you to be on the main stage, whether you are queer or straight. The issue more is creating a platform for artists that are not famous. So we spoke about it yesterday. There are a couple of really, really big, well-known artists in South Africa that are queer, that are owning the stage. And whatever stage they go to, they get front center. Whatever festival, it's front center. So it's more about how do we get unsigned artists or artists
Developing.
that are not influencers, why they're being marginalized. It could be the same answer to any unsigned artist or developing artist. The challenge is for the artists to get themselves out there on social media. And it's hard.
It's expensive.
And it's hard. And with Hunter Blues,
It's expensive, and you don't
clothing
pay people
change.
enough.
It's very expensive.
It's expensive, and you get paid enough. Do you get paid well?
I don't get paid. Darling, well, who's going to pay me? I don't get paid. So I do it for, I'm in a very lucky position that I've worked incredibly hard and I can do it as a passion project, right? So there's a big difference here. If you are a new artist that you want to dedicate your life to this, all right, in London, I had 5 jobs. I was doing anything I could to pay for studio time, anything I could, but that's what it takes. That's what it takes in any creative field. If you want to dedicate your life and if it's your life purpose and it's a calling. You put yourself in there. But to this day, until I can, let's say, until I am popular, famous, why would people want to pay for me to be at the event? Who am I going to draw? So I do it my own. I do my own parties. I do my own promos. I do my own social media campaigns. Being on social media is not expensive. It takes commitment and dedication. This is the vehicle to, and hours, it is your portal, your digital footprint to the world to let people see you.
That's your platform.
There you go, your platform. And whoever you are on that platform will draw people in. And that's how people, and now we're in an age that we can control our own music industry. So we can self-release, we can self-promote, we can self-produce, we can do all of that ourselves independently, so.
Because you're smart like that as queer individuals, and you're creative like that.
Yeah.
But I generally have a problem, like with, the idea of not paying. I mean, I love the passion, right? There's nothing wrong with people making an income out of doing something they love. Right? And I feel like, there was a big conversation that I saw on Twitter around rates. And I think it was a DJ thing that they were saying, this one and their rider looks like this. It's also how people are treated. And festival producers sometimes can be homophobic. And I feel like we've got to talk a little bit about that. And because that's how we're going to change, You've had that experience.
I've had many experiences.
And I'm going to pick up, because I'm going to throw it back at Kerry to talk to you how we protect our artists.
I've had many conversations about homophobia in the music industry, specifically from a hip hop's perspective. And my response is always that music doesn't exist in a vacuum. It exists within the context of a society that is homophobic. So it's to be expected that there's gonna be these kinds of resistances. I mean, I know about a queer rapper who paid for a platform on social media to basically post his latest single at the time. Before the single was even posted, the people working on the platform didn't want to accept payment from this rapper. I can't say the name. So there are platforms like Facebook pages with like 500,000 followers, and they offer these kinds of packages where you can pay them for promo. So he tried doing that, and there was resistance from inside the platform. Eventually, they got together and spoke, and it was like, well, listen, we can't discriminate on the basis of sexuality. And then they posted the single, the amount of homophobia that I mean, they were so rocked, they took the post down. Which, first of all, there was the resistance from inside the platform, and then from their fans. But for me, it was just like, well, first of all, this person paid for this. Just because you're getting backlash from your audience, what happens to my money, And I think with promoters, the festival producers, it's the same thing. It's like, well, if I put you on a stage, are people going to come?
Receive you well.
To receive you well.
Yeah.
So you're not just fighting homophobia generally in society, you're also fighting people's perception of homophobia. I think it's exaggerated in the sense that I think there is a market for queer artists. And we see this with things like Vogue Nights. We see this with things like Other Village People, Same-Sex Saturdays. And these are events that have gone beyond the queer community. A lot of non-queer people go to these events and they enjoy it. So I think a lot of gatekeepers are probably people from an older generation who over-exaggerate the kind of backlash that could come from booking queer artists and platforming queer artists. And like I said, I think things are changing. Like this year for me has been quite phenomenal, doing things that I wouldn't have expected to do. But the change is super slow.
Yeah, but I just think it's also an issue of accountability, because there are lots of people who claim to be allies, right?
That's my thing. What are
In
your
this way-
values?
yes.
Because that's what should be guiding your decisions, not the fact that, oh no, my audience is going to crap me out for this. Like, what are your values? What do you stand
I
for?
mean, I had an issue. Just I like what you're saying, that it's like everybody else is going there. I always say that culture, anything, is borrowed from the queer community. Fashion, music, clubs, everything. You want to know what's going down? Ask a homosexual. You want to know what's happening on the scenes? Ask LGBTQ.
Or his or her, or she, or their best friend.
Yeah. Okay. But also, like, I had an issue with, like, the fact that even, you know, platforms like, and we had this conversation, I'll say it because I'm not shy of it, like Global Citizen, you know, there are so many countries and we have these platforms and this big stage for us to be able to stand for something, right? Lots of queer people went to those concerts to see Beyonce. A lot of people right now have been traveling the world watching Beyonce. How do we hold those people or those platforms accountable? Because it took me trying to hustle a message around representation through the president, because they wouldn't allow themselves to put somebody on stage to talk about the issues that are happening on the continent, right? Collaborations, you work with tons of people who are there and doing music, and there's so many stages, whether it's Afro Nation, where queer people or everybody else should be afforded an opportunity. Earlier on, I bumped into Anati and I said, Anati, please can you make a song with us? I've got like incredible queer artists and you're an amazing producer. Your credit is like, you know, it's amazing. How do we hold those people accountable? Because we've got to go somewhere. There are issues, there are politics that we've got to face, and we've got to talk about them. Like Fame Week on its own, this is beautiful for us to have this conversation. Where does it go next? I'm going to open up the floor for us to engage, you know? And so,
I just want to respond to that question. Like, I mean, I really don't know how people can be held accountable. I don't know if they can be held accountable. My approach has simply been, I must mention that I've had a couple of producers who wanted to work with me, but then eventually decided, oh no, my street credibility is on the line if I work with a queer artist, so it never happened. So my approach has generally been to work with people that do want to work with me. And those people always come back to me when they see the results of that. So I think for me, the best approach right now is to produce the best work that I can. Everything else notwithstanding, and just see how the results of that work. And like I said, to pay it forward, like whatever I can achieve, someone else coming behind me will be able to achieve more because I was there.
yeah.
Yeah.
I want to open it.
I echo that.
Yeah.
You know, you can be banging on a door and asking to be on a stage, whether it's a rock festival or an R&B festival or a hip-hop festival. That festival that exists, that has a name, is already bringing in a type of audience. And maybe you think you want to be on that stage. I'd rather be working and pushing, for example, Hunter Blue in a direction of where there is going to be an initial embracement, where there is recognition, where there is acknowledgement and affirmation, and then it takes it out. And you start with your tribe, and from your tribe, you grow your fans. And if you look what Hans has done with his TikTok, just, you know, he's got his fan base up unbelievably on his own. And you've held yourself accountable. That's
nothing to do with music. Imagine, right? So the TikTok, I basically, you know, started exploring and unlearning what society has told me to be. all right? Unlearning what is gender, what should I wear, who am I meant to be? And the characters started coming out on TikTok, and I'm very, I was nervous to start showing myself in different characters, but TikTok fell in love with these different characters that I have. It's got nothing to do with my music. It's about being your authentic self. And if you find out who you are and love yourself the most and do what you love to do, other people will resonate with you and other people will love you too. And that's what I've learned. But we still have to create space and platforms and opportunity to share and showcase. If we're always going to have closed doors, we're quite insular. So you were talking about collaboration, and you're talking, like, I don't know how that happens, but it is about reach out and touch, basically.
Yeah. I mean, like Feathers and all the other festivals, Queertopia, all of these are just not enough. I think we just need something slightly bit bigger, but also artists have the opportunity to unite a lot of us. Music unites a lot of us. And we can use that opportunity, and I think that's an approach that we've got to take. I know I saw hands. There's a question here, and there's a question right there. I'm going to move. I didn't get to do the Grammys, so this is my dress.
Let's have a
This is my walk.
press.
You can go, yeah. No, we don't have that,
I just wanted to be polite. Hi, everyone. My name is Lita Bam. I can also very much speak to experience. I'm mostly an actor, by the way. My journey has been in acting, and I'm also a singer. I'm having a pretty good career as an actor, let me say. And one of the first roles that I got that kind of sort of put me on the map was, so you know me. So it was playing a gay role. Straight out of university, I had the opportunity to be on Soapy Scandal. It was a black gay character which had not been on South African television before. Obviously, I had a lot of fear around that. And just speaking to the improvement, how things have changed, considering I had the loneliness and the isolation that I felt doing that role, and having come out to my own family about a year before that, it was huge turmoil. But I feel like I can speak to the difficulty it still is to kind of find your tribe still, you know what I mean? Because even though I was kind of in this position, it kind of does, people think you're untouchable, you know? And I've always wanted to do music as well and that kind of thing. So I left the show about 16 years ago now. And I'm still on the journey. I started doing drag last year. And I know Hunter might recognize me from the Vogue Balls and that kind of thing, because that's been a space for me to explore a completely different side of expression, because I was afraid, because my thing was okay, I need to butch up. If I want an acting career, I need to butch up, you know? And I just want to speak to the optimism, you know what I mean? Expressing the optimism of what it is to be in the world right now as a queer person, as a gay person, you know? And I just want to speak to making more space for that. You already mentioned it in terms of just expressing as a human being, because I think also I'm going on a little bit, but also there's something going on within the community as well, where there's, people are separating themselves from the L's, the G's, the B's, the T's, and so the politics, exactly. And I just wish we just come back to a place where we just express, because that's what art is about, really inspiring people, and not necessarily, the political side, which seems to be.
Lita, if I can just add to that, I think we tend to miss a lot of nuances about who we are as a community. What I find is generally in mainstream entertainment anyway, we tend to be put in these boxes. You are either the comic relief, or you are this flamboyant, God knows what diva, and there's just no space for you to experience different things, and you don't get the work that allows you to experience different things, and that's certainly also one of the things for me as a rapper, doing something that people don't expect a queer person to do. That's one of the things that have become a passion for me, to be able to say, I am much more nuanced than that. And I'm going to create that space for me to exist, whether or not you like it.
And then just to add a bit onto that, what Hunter Blue experienced within the community, the queer community, on launching his single, it was really hard for him to break into the scene here. Yes. And I've contacted this promoter and that promoter and this show here and that show there, and tried to get him onto various platforms, specifically in the queer community, to give him exposure as the beginning, in the initial phase with the initial tribe. The result being is Hunter just decided to create his own show. And now those particular characters that I had contacted or reached out to have come onto his show. And it's fluid, and it's I mean, you can add.
I think there's so many layers to this. I mean, my base is spiritualism. Okay, so until I was ready, until I knew that I was ready to own myself 100% and ready to show myself 100%, and then did so, that's when I felt that the world opened up for me. So until I was open, I was hitting on closed doors because somewhere in me I was still closed. But to bring out what you said, the spectrum and who we are cannot be defined as letters. And we are in a new world of celebrating the Gen Z. I love you, my niece is that. She's like, uncle, be mindful in terms of you can be anything you want, be unlimited, and be respectful to yourself the most. You know, and I really am an advocate for that. Now, how my career shapes in that, I don't know. Because we're living in a world where I don't know what to do next. I'll put on a show. Will I get booked? Will I not get booked? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? So we're all learning in this. But what I would love is for us to be more celebratory of ourselves. And then that reflects as a society and as a community, for the whole queer community. Even queers are people. People have their stuff. Right? And everyone is unique in their life journey. So me arriving in Cape Town saying, please book me for the show. They were like, why would we book you when we got this sister? You know, come prove yourself. And it's only through being in ballroom, showing up in service, like, you know, like, I'm going to show what I want to dress like. And if you guys are inspired by it, amazing, in that service. Only then ballroom took me in and said, you know what, you are one of us because you put in the work. You show up every ball and you put in the show. You dress up. And that's about being part of the community, you know? And so that's what I've learned. But who knows where it will go? Who knows?
We've got a lot to learn as well, also internally. I always say to people that we like pointing fingers at people, but we should also look within and resolve our own politics. But yeah, question here. Yeah. Gotta wrap up.
Hi, my name is Nana Bula Bula. I am a singer, songwriter, screenwriter, actress, choreographer, and dancer. Currently studying my master's in screenwriting and acting. I have a point, just 2 points and a sort of like a question. I think what I've learned about the music industry, and not even just the music artistry, instead of trying to, I think it's Ati Patraruga who says, we as South Africans like to go and eat at other people's houses. When at home you have your own food, create your own dafile, and eat from your own plate. If you don't like the fruit from that other side and trying to get a plate in another person's table, there is a table right here at your own home, that home being your own heart, that stage being your own mind, you know? So I've learned that if you can become your own Beyonce, your own star in your own show, because if you live your life trying to put yourself in stages, you have no idea when your time will run out. And you're chasing a table that was never yours. Yeah. So instead of that, try and come back to your own home, sit down and cook your feast and be the Beyonce of your own life. Anyway, and then the second, a group of, sorry, yes. How did I just what I just said? Sometimes you forget what you speak.
Feed the children.
Hallelujah. Anyway, another point is a marginalized group in South Africa that has not been spoken about is, the body positivity. I was recently rejected because I was a dark-skinned big girl trying to do R&B or trap soul, and because I was not light-skinned or slim, thick, or petite, I was not able to get into specific rooms. I didn't fit the the archetype of the trap soul R&B singer, I was more pushed and guided. You should be more like Amanda Black or Judith Sipoma or, my darling, I'm 24 years old. And my sound, I can be anything I want. And it was very sad for me. It made me go back to high school. I was trying to get to know a promoter or a producer, especially in that specific club. That's where they usually hang out. So this is a marginalized group that hasn't even been spoken about. It's something that I don't even think Fame has spoken about. That there's that marginalized group in terms of the archetype of the black singer or the R&B singer or the trap soul singer. They look a certain type. You have to look tropical. You have to look foreign. You have to be light-skinned. You have to be what the mummies are, the honeys are. But what happens to the voice? And how would you guys as the panelists, because that's also a group that you guys also speak to in the sense that you guys relate to that sort of exclusion in certain positions. I have until this day found a producer who's able to take me seriously to where I'm trying to be, as if I'm not allowed to go and dream in that position. But I know in my heart that's where I'm trying to go. So when they mix and master you, they degrade your voice and takes you back to other spaces that, like trauma that you haven't even. I'm a born free. I don't know how my voice. I have never experienced apartheid. Do you know what I mean? But I felt what it feels like to be excluded, and my voice, which is my singing voice, I haven't released a song, and unfortunately my father passed away 3 weeks ago, and his dying wish was for me to sing. And I can't sing anymore because every room I go to doesn't allow my R&B, trap soul dream, my genre, my voice, my tone is not accepted in that room, and I don't know how long it will be when they start having those conversations. So advice to you as the panelist.
I have a few people that owe me favors, by the way. You better take my number.
I mean, archetypes exist in any sort of genre. Like I keep saying, I'm a rapper. No rapper looks like me. No rapper has nails like this. So I think for me, the solution to that has always just been to keep doing what I'm doing. So I would advise you to keep making the music. If no one wants to make beats for you, learn. YouTube is a free university, get the programs. You can get them for free. You can get an FL Tools trial program for free and use that to learn. Just don't get to a point where you are not doing what you want to do because people say you can't. People have told me that I should rather make a piano. People have told me I should wear wigs and do makeup tutorials on TikTok. But that's not me, I'm from a township, I'm from the ghetto. Like, the music I make expresses that in my own queer way. So yeah, just don't let people say you can't do that. Yeah.
I think you have very unfortunately been pitching your music to the wrong producers. The producers that I work with, we send each other tracks all the time. I work very closely with a producer in the UK and local producers, and we get so excited whether it's an industry person when we hear a new voice. It's got nothing to do with visual. So let me hear your music.
Exchange numbers.
Let me hear your music. Let's
So
try and put it into the right
exchange numbers.
hands. And I can assure you the people that I work with, maybe they can't launch your career, but they certainly aren't going to say, oh, great voice, but she needs to change her image, or she needs to change her voice to fit her image. It's never existed in my world and the people that I work with. And I think you've just had a really, really unfortunate experience of meeting the wrong kind of producer.
And can I add that? Sometimes it's a Sufi proverb, right? When we need to learn something, all right, somebody will come and teach you something to learn it. So if I need to learn about forgiveness, I will get heartbroken because I have to learn about forgiveness. How will you love yourself ultimately unless you draw people to tell you that you're not good enough? For you to learn that you are the queen, you are the ultimate, that your dream is valid, but you will need people in your path to say you're not good enough, so you believe that you are good enough. So these producers are your blessings. These producers have been your guides, so you can say, no, bitch, I'm moving on, and I can be better, and I will be. And that's the key, I think. Because it's happened to me. So many people, you can't sing, you can dance, and you look pretty, but you can't sing. But all I want to do is sing, and I'm going to prove it. And it's taken me a lifetime to get here, but I'm living the dream.
Yeah, that's what's up. So I think we've come to literally the end of the conversation. But what I do hope for is an extended conversation outside of these platforms and this forum that we're in, and for us to be able to exchange that knowledge and find ways to build community. But also, let's go make the check, ne? Because I always talk about like the issue of people saying that they're doing us favors and they are putting us on, and yeah, no, it's a bit too costly, you know. That time is gone now, you know. Cut those relationships. I've recently learned how to say goodbye to relationships that don't work for me, because you have to know your worth. And it's something that we get wrong as queer people. If anybody ain't paying me what I'm worth, I am not going. I'm not arriving, and I'm okay. In fact, I've, in my experience, learned to decline jobs I don't want to do by overpricing myself, right? And in that experience, when somebody said, I'll accept your quotation, I was like, shit! I have not been making this money because I didn't know my worth. Yeah. You know, and I didn't know that there's a world that can accept those kind of quotations. Do you know what I mean? So we've got to set our own standards and know our worth, and don't be shy to ask people for money, you know. Opportunities and all those things, the Gen Zs that you talk about, all these people are making money somehow, somewhere. Just get the check, guys. Beyonce says, bitch, pay me, right? Yeah. We want to be cozy like that. Yeah. Thank you to everybody that came through to this conversation, and may we continue to connect and find spaces. Shoni's there. She's speaking later. She's recently started Basadi Awards, and we're having just a conversation around the experience of owning these platforms and what it takes. And we're comparing notes and our trauma. I mean, like, I've sold a house before for that passion, but it's not happening. Well, I would probably do it again, but I think that time is gone. Yeah, I think that time is gone for us, you know, doing these favors. Let's just go in, let's coach, let's ask the money we're worth. Okay. Thank you so much. I hope that this was insightful. We must follow these social media groups and spaces and connect with everyone. Thank you to the panelists that were here. You guys were incredibly amazing, and may the work you do, be successful, and we'll support you in whichever way, shape, form.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.